Good morning. Welcome to First Church of Religious Science. Welcome to our Sunday morning gathering. I want to say hi to all of you who are now signed in on Zoom, and a few of you are still signing in, and a special welcome to anyone who's new today. We do have a time at the end of the service where everyone has a chance to share, so please let us know you're new if this is your first time with us. And a special welcome to any of you here on Facebook or watching us on YouTube or any of the other media channels. Welcome to our center. Today we're going to be talking about what's in a name. We're really talking about the names that people would use for creative intelligence, God, or what have you. I remember doing a talk like this a few years ago, and it was entitled Call It Snoopy, and I'll tell you why it was called that in a moment. People have many different names that they use for this creative intelligence. I have a little intro for us. In this vast orchestra, this cosmos, every religious tradition plays a unique melody. Every one of them is echoing the divine under all kinds of names. Each note a call to the infinite. From the whisper of spirit to the reverence of Allah, each is but a chord in a symphony of existence. In this celestial concert, no single note stands alone. Each is harmonized by the underlying rhythm of the universe itself. Though our voices may differ, the song we sing is always one of unity, a melody that transcends language, reaching deep into the soul of all beings. So today, as we come together, let's celebrate this universal mind or universal chorus, not as disparate cries, but as harmonies in the grand composition of life, where every name and every tradition brings richness to the whole, uniting us all together under the canopy of a shared divine resonance. I've been listening to people talk about their higher powers for many years. Back in those days, there was a friend of mine, Glenn, who was referring to he was agnostic. He might have been an atheist, I don't know, but he knew he needed to find something. And I remember him in various groups talking about Snoopy. Snoopy was his higher power. Again, he was agnostic, but he knew he needed to believe in something because his life was not going well. So he adopted that name and he began to act as if he was supplied and supported. He was trying to believe in something, some loving process. And in the end, he did come to understand that there was something greater than himself, because he had a very difficult time with the word God, as I remember. And I know some people in our audience do as well. So he adopted that name. And there was another person who had another thing that makes me smile. His name was Lenny. And he didn't have much spirituality, except that he commented to us that he meditated in the park every morning with his coffee, looking at the squirrels running up and down the trees. And so that was his higher power, which he found in nature in the morning. So that was a lot of years ago when I was listening to all of this, and I was thinking, who are these people? I was raised in a very traditional family. All of these people were calling the eternal presence, the God which I used to think was above, every single name you could think of. Later in my life, I encountered a minister who refers to this power as Big Sweetie. So truly, you can call it whatever you want to call it. People are always thinking about it, though, and they're thinking about it in all kinds of ways, and people have been thinking about the forces of life, the powers of life throughout human history. With Ernest Holmes and the Science of Mind, I just used the word thinking about it. Ernest Holmes in the textbook used the word it. He called, we study it, he said. And I grew up in a Catholic family, by the way, and I was raised going to Catholic schools every morning. We had a mass at the start of the day. And so I got a lot of programming from my from my family and from my religious education. By the time I got involved in the 12-step program in my early 20s, I was beginning to realize no matter what the name that they were going to be talking about, people were always talking about the same thing. And now, many years later, I realized that this one essence has been called hundreds of names and probably thousands of names throughout history. I found Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life, soon after it was published, and I started to understand her main messages, the importance of learning to love ourselves, or as she used to say, the importance of self-acceptance and self-approval. I was learning to judge less and take it easy. I was starting to realize that I'm part of something. I'm one with the one. I'm one with one another. And another slogan that I was learning, it was very important to live and let live. And eventually I would get to the place of understanding that everyone is doing the best that they can with their consciousness. Or said, as I usually say it, everyone was doing the best that they could with the information, the understanding, and the awareness that they have. Eventually, I would understand that everybody's evolving. Whereas a later teacher said to me, everyone's evoluting along. And I'm not here to judge a soul. Each of us are on our own journey. And I don't want to get in the way of anyone's evolution. And I was challenged on that when I was younger. It was like, you don't have any right to mess with this person. I would say, I'm trying to help them. And it was pointed out to me, sometimes helping is not the answer. Because people are here on their own journey. And we want to be careful that we're not, in fact, enabling people. And I learned soon enough that I had enough work to do of my own. I encountered a very important idea along the way, which was, in truth, there's nothing outside of ourselves. And that was because at that point in my life, I had the finger pointed at all kinds of behavior, people, places, and things, doing everything. And I was very good at assessing or judging other people's behavior and what I thought was right or wrong. Or as Louise Hay would say, when you're using the word should, in just about every case, you're making someone wrong. You're either making yourself wrong or you're making someone else wrong. And what that really is, a lot of our own inner rigidity, which comes from the things that we learned as children. And what we're trying to do in our practice, living the affirmative life, is we're trying to let go and let God. We're trying to let people be. We're trying to judge less. We're trying to get to a point where we realize they're all doing the best they can, and so are we. So we're releasing the need to beat ourselves up, and we are also releasing the need to do it to other people. All of our work, when we say in truth there's nothing outside of us, all of our work really in the end is inner work. We're attempting to heal the inner dialogue that we have with the most important person in the world, which is ourselves. When you hear religious scientists say we do our work in mind, what we're really talking about is we're doing our work in consciousness. We're working with our belief system. We're working with the old stories that we have ruminating within us, the old tapes, and we're learning to cancel them and release them and replace them with more life-affirming ideas. The universe responds to us, so it makes great sense to start thinking great thoughts. With Louise Hay, with every class I participated in, either as a teacher or a student, over time, I really started to understand that all is truly well. I was getting ready, as I was studying Louise Hay, for my next great teacher, who was Dr. Bill. Dr. Bill was one of the clearest teachers of New Thought I had ever encountered up to that time, and he was perfect for me. He certainly didn't act like a minister or sound like a minister, but he taught principle. He taught me that life is responding to me in each and every moment. And I didn't need to do anything to woo it. I couldn't persuade it. I needed to learn how to align with it and trust in the process of life. And so he was perfect for me. he was really clear in teaching us about the law of life. I had had up until that time a ton of religious instruction, especially when I was younger. And that instruction from my earlier years would have me thinking and believing that I'm not good enough, or I would not be loving myself. It would have me thinking I was born in sin, and just about everything that I could have been doing was, sinful in one way or another, and certainly not what I was supposed to be. Anyway, when I met Dr. Bill, I was first talking about love and law. I was talking about how this love is omnipresent in the universe and it's always working according to law. And at the time, I was healing a whole lot of beliefs of my childhood training. I was realizing more and more that life is responding to me. I've told my story about my encounter with Mary Curowitz, who was a practitioner, and that statement, she said, "The universe, Greg, so loves you that it responds to your every single thought." And that time she was saying, you were the child of a lesser God. And, I would pray to God, I thought above, and I would pray for what I wanted, and I would, even try to bargain with it. And those were great days of learning for me, where I realized you can't bargain with this. You can align yourself with what it is: peace, power, love, joy, beauty, wisdom, and similar things. And you can let go, and you can trust in the process of life. When I began to study the textbook of religious science, the first 4 chapters, interestingly, I started to talk about this before, but I didn't finish. The first 4 chapters involved the idea of the thing itself, and the way it works, what it does, and how to use it. When I first heard those words, I think I blessed myself. And I thought, this is blasphemy. How can you talk about this God, this higher power, in using the word it? It was a little bit jarring, and it was also exciting. Meaning, I had to let go of a lot of things that I had learned in my life up until then. I had already come a long way. Everything, though, before me was preparing me for meeting that teacher and this teaching. There was a time when I thought of God, I would be petitioning, as I said before, help me with this, help me with that, and promising. Those are called foxhole prayers. Anything, right? Some of you can relate to those kind of prayers. So you can imagine when I encountered this minister speaking about this God of my youth as it, or the thing itself, it seemed like it was all too much. It is a very impersonal word, right? And because it's so impersonal, Ernest Holmes most likely chose it. Because when you think of it, you don't think of a person. And when you think of this higher power, as you think of it, hopefully you're not thinking of it as a person, because it's beyond anything we could ever comprehend. In a number of courses I've taken much later in college, and over the years, I've learned many different words to describe what most English-speaking people commonly call God. Many Christians will think of God as the unified Trinity of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And if that's the way you sense it or you feel it, then that's valid for you. And I've taken course after course in religion and philosophy and the like, and I remember this higher power being described as that which can never be described, that which can't be named. It's always going to be bigger than anything that we could ever think of it. There's hundreds of names for this power. In another class, I brought in a list of 100, 150. I've got like 5 or 6 here for you today. The magnificent. You can think of the higher power as the magnificent, or the loving, the patient, the one, the provider, the ever-living, the absolute, the compassionate, the omnipresent, the presence, So you could go on with this. I didn't take the time to Google them all today. You can go on with this and you can add others. Some of you who are on the broadcast or in the chat today, you could add how you think of this universe and give the name you use. I don't know that I have a favorite anymore. Usually it's going to be a little bit different for everyone, but mostly in religious science circles, we'll be hearing people use the word God, source, inner presence, higher power, creative intelligence. In the end, it's always, we're always talking about the same power, the same indwelling presence, whatever name you use to describe it. The understanding that we develop here in the teaching in metaphysics is that this power is not external to us. That's a big thing. It was a big thing for me to grapple with. It's not an outer power. It's an inner power. It's in us. It operates through us. It's all around us. This power was definitely above. It was represented by a male figure, in my mind anyway, that was capable of restoring me and forgiving my sins, and that could allow me to enter heaven one day, or if it was displeased with me, could send me elsewhere, send me to hell if I had lived a bad life. And the thought of it when I was younger was pretty scary. They had in-between places like purgatory and all that. And the idea that I was born with original sin. So before I came out of the gate, so to speak, I was sinful. So there definitely was this idea that I was born with sin and I needed to continually get better and seek God's grace. And I won't give you all of that old belief system, but we were taught even as children that we must love God with all our beings, and that we also should be afraid. If you're on a call like this, I'm going to hope that you weren't raised with any of this baggage, or if you were, that you found your way to reconceptualize all of it. You found your way also to release it. I'm trusting that people a generation or so younger than me are being taught differently. But as we come into New Thought, we're here, we question all of that, right? And most of us have released the need to have an anthropomorphic God. We don't think in terms of God with a gender. We don't think in terms of it being a human. That word anthropomorphic, by the way, means ascribing human characteristics to non-human things. Remember Ernest Holmes with the word it. That's a word used in religious science in the first 4 chapters again. It's used throughout the book, actually. We talk about the thing itself and what it does. And as you think of the word, it doesn't have human characteristics. So we might have difficulty in totally understanding what it is. And that's appropriate because none of us can fully understand this spiritual activity. We're part of it, we can observe it. We're not the totality of it. We do our best. Language can be limiting. We use what words work best for us where we are. As we evolve, many of our ideas and our phrases evolve as well. Shakespeare famously asked the relevant question, what is in a name? You might remember it. What is in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. So we can think about that. The name isn't so important. Dr. Holmes, in the textbook, again entitled the first chapter, The Thing Itself, and he capitalizes throughout the text many synonyms for the word God. So again, call it what you will. Albert Einstein, in terms of these old religions, once commented, the teachers of religion must eventually have the stature to give up the superstitious image of a personal God out there somewhere. For tens of thousands of years, people have been looking up to the heavens for something. You know, you can imagine the Neanderthal men, women, perhaps, I don't know, 50, 100,000 years ago, being terrified of lightning and the natural phenomena, hurricanes and floods, and praying to something out there, thunder, earthquakes, fires. Clearly, there was always something greater than themselves. And many later civilizations prayed to the gods for the grains, or prayed to gods to favor them, and would offer gifts to the gods and sacrifices of all kinds. And as we move towards more modern times, you would find the gods to be found in the mountains of Mount Sinai in Egypt or Mount Olympus in Greece. And over all these centuries, humans were always creating new gods to meet the changing needs of the times, or whatever was going on with their culture. When the Hebrew nation was engaged in much fighting, their God was a God that was warlike, who would help them in their battle to help bring them victory. Later, their God proved not to be as powerful as their opponents, and they had to come up with a God that would meet new demands, a God of mercy and compassion for his chosen people. Now, again, we don't do that anymore. Once again, a God was created or changed in the minds of human beings to meet a need. Many of these old or traditional faiths have now closed their doors, or they've modernized. If you're not able to meet the needs of the people, these traditional faiths are having a tough time because they're burdened with the old images and practices that people have lost interest in or lost faith in. They find that these older faiths have increasingly become less relevant. Any spiritual system or practice that stubbornly adheres to the past or is hopelessly at odds with enlightened discovery and scientific findings will close eventually because they're not able to meet the needs of the present. When we come into this teaching, we realize that there is an energy, there's a power, and it actually responds to us. You will have demonstrations as you learn to live the affirmative life. Affirmations are very powerful. Affirmative prayer is very powerful. If you stay the course, you keep working with it, you're going to have positive demonstrations. We learn in this teaching that we are interconnected, we are one with this power, we're each individualizations of this power, and that what each and every one of us do is important to the whole itself. Many of us still have images in our mind of what God is, and many of us still think of God being out there, watching out for us. As we grow more and more spiritually, most of us are inclined to let go of this anthropomorphic God that's above. Traditional ministers, priests, and rabbis used to tell people what God wants and what God wants for us and what God expects and all of that. You don't hear most ministers speaking that way anymore. Old-time religions would tell you all of that and how you should behave and how you should do this and that. People used to take all this advice literally. I don't know if there's too much of that around anymore. The scriptures were loaded with examples. They would say, God loves this, God loves that, God forgives this, God judges that, God is jealous, God is angry. So we are transferring, when we do this, human emotion to a supernatural it, a presence. Sometimes today we hear people say it was God's will, for example, when a child, for example, is killed in an automobile accident. People are saying this is God's will. And I'm going to ask the question, I'm going to answer the question, do you really believe this? It's more likely that the child was killed because someone ran a stoplight or someone was texting and not paying attention. A driver actually would be the one who killed the child in this accident. Hopefully we don't think that there's some type of sadistic God sitting up there saying, today I'm going to let someone die, or today I'll let someone get sick. It clearly doesn't work that way. So let's release the need for all this type of thinking. In a war, for example, a family loses a son or a daughter, someone who's trying to protect us. Would you say that this is the will of God? Hopefully, no. No, you wouldn't say that. Human beings die due to acts of other human beings, of nature, hurricanes, tornadoes, fires, earthquakes, volcanoes, accidents. Such activities of the universe, of the cosmos. To say that God willed or killed somebody by a flood or by anything else is a limited way of seeing life. This view somehow diminishes the it, the thing itself. Human beings die from human ignorance and sometimes stupidity, from incompetence, carelessness, from disease, not from God's will. So let's give you a more modern interpretation. Let's not think of God as a person in the sky anymore. Let's think of God as an energy that's all around us, like the sunlight that reaches every single thing. Or let's think of God as the air we breathe. This energy isn't male or female. It's the very life force flowing through everything, connecting us all. When we face challenges, whether it's illness, loss, or personal hardship, it's easy to feel lost or to think that this higher power has let us down. People are also often feeling angry or abandoned or wondering, why did this happen? And why didn't God stop it? While it's understandable to feel this way, but let's explore it from a new thought perspective. In our teaching, we recognize that there is a power for good in operation in the universe, and you're definitely a part of it, and you can learn to use it. This divine energy doesn't pick what happens in our lives or selectively prevent certain things from happening. It is best to think of it as a force that's available at all times, everywhere. It's something that's available to each and every one of us all the time. It's something that's available that will give us strength and guidance if we tune into it. It's always there. It's always there. Rather than seeing God as a judge above or a personal guardian who's going to intervene on our behalf, we can see and feel this energy as a positive, supportive presence that's always with us. It's always here. It's always available. We are part of it, and we always are at choice. Yes, we're always at choice. We're the people who can decide the next step. We live in new moments, and we can realize that we can turn this day around, that the universe is responding to us. Every moment we can decide to focus on what's possible. Every moment we can choose to direct our energies to create happier and more fulfilling experiences. It's up to us. Louise Hay would say we're each 100% responsible. It's up to us. Life is responding to you. Life is responding to me. It's responding to our inner dialogue. It's responding to what you know and what you believe. So you can think of it this way. Just as the sun doesn't stop shining because the clouds are in the way, this divine presence doesn't leave us when times get tough. The sun is always there, and so is this divine energy. The clouds of our difficult experiences don't have to permanently block our light. I'll say that again. The clouds of our difficult experiences don't have to permanently block our light. We can choose always to rise above them. We can choose to hitch our wagon to the stars that Emerson spoke of. We can choose to lift ourselves. We can choose to be lifters. You can heal your life. We aren't stuck with our current circumstances, even though sometimes it feels like we are. You can heal your life. We aren't stuck unless we choose to be, unless we tell ourselves that we are. Life is responding to you, and it's always moving forward. And it can be exciting if we allow it to be. Life can be an exciting adventure. For that to happen, we need to develop positive expectancy. That's the practice of religious science. We're here to see the good. And we keep doing it. We may not control everything that happens to us, but we can control how we respond to everything. We can develop positive expectancy. That's the practice, to see the good, to see the God in the good. We can use this powerful energy we possess to create hope and to step out of worry and despair. We can step out of the consciousness of being victims to becoming active creators of our own life and of our own destiny. So the message for today is, let's not limit our understanding of God to human traits or see this divine force as an external entity up above that's somehow managing our lives. You and I, we are here. We are here as individualizations of this activity, one with the one. And we have the power to, as Holmes would say, there's power for good in the universe greater than we of which we are part. And we have the ability to use that power to our own, to affect positive change in our life. So we're here as individualizations of this activity, and we're responsible for our decisions. Let's embrace the idea that we are one with this one energy. We're, again, individualizations of a greater whole. We are participants in life's creative process, equipped with the power to shape our own journey. We do that by aligning ourselves with this understanding. We discover how to navigate life. And as we do, we discover how to navigate life with confidence and joy, knowing that we have the power to heal our lives and to influence our experiences. And as we do this, we're going to change everything, many things. It was Reverend Ike who used to say, you can't lose with the stuff we use. So to summarize a little bit today, as we step beyond all of our childhood learning, any old ideas that might have held us back, we emerge into the beauty, the radiance of a spirituality that embraces modern understanding and universal truths. In our enlightened exploration, the rigid framework of yesterday's doctrines dissolve, making way for a fluid and dynamic expression of divine energy. In New Thought, we perceive God not as an overseer, but as the life force itself that animates everything, all of us, in all of us. This divine energy doesn't dictate our fates, but it empowers us to go forward, to forge our destinies with conscious intent. Here, God is not seated in a distant judgment, but it's woven into everything, into our being, accessible and always present. Releasing the personified deity of old, as we do this, we open ourselves up to a force that is both within us and around us, pervasive, nurturing always, and infinitely wise. This is not a power that imposes, but one that offers itself freely to us, guiding us through the ebbs and flows of life with gentle persistence. I have an affirmative prayer for us today. In this moment, I affirm my connection to the boundless energy that courses through the universe. I am an integral part of the cosmic weave, distinct yet inseparable from the whole. With each breath, I align myself with this universal energy, drawing upon its endless well of potential. I embrace the divine flow, allowing it to infuse every aspect of my life with clarity and purpose. Grateful for the unending support and wisdom it offers, I move forward with intention and grace. Now I'm about ready to turn the cameras over to all of you to hear your demonstrations, what names you use for this higher power. So let's carry this renewed understanding into our shared time together. As we transition to our Zoom call, I want to have invite each of you to share the vibrant reflections you have on today's lesson. Let's explore and celebrate the different ways we experience this wondrous energy. And so it is. Thank you.